Excellencies, respected panelists, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this second session on the theme of No Peace Without Women. As you can see in the program, this session is part of a series of regional conferences held in Europe and around the world in response to the outbreaks of war, calling for women to take the lead in peace building. We have a highly distinguished panel of UN officials and experts with great field experience. And without further ado, we have 5 speakers. I will start and ask our speakers to begin. Our first speaker, we were expecting Ms. Tatiana Molcean, who actually cannot come, is represented today by Ms. Hilary Murphy, but I will still introduce Ms. Tatiana Molcean because her speech will be read. Ms. Tatiana Molcean is the United Nations Under-Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UNECE. She has 20 years of experience in the public sector with international cooperation and development. And as a career diplomat, Ms. Molcean had held important positions such as permanent representative of the Republic of Moldova to the United Nations Office, World Trade Organization, and other international organizations in Geneva. Representing her today is with us Ms. Hilary Murphy, who is the Senior Social Affairs Officer of UNECE. Please, Ms. Murphy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I trust you can all hear me okay. First of all, sincere apologies from our Executive Secretary, Ms. Molcean. She was very excited to attend today's discussion. Excuse me, can you hear me? Okay. Apologies from Ms. Molcean. She was very excited to attend today's discussion, but due to a very last-minute scheduling conflict, as is often the case, there's been a change of plan. So I'm here to represent Ms. Molcean today, and I will deliver the speech on her behalf. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the organizers, the Universal Peace Federation, together with the Women's Federation for World Peace International, and their partners for arranging today's event. In considering the theme of today's session, No Peace Without Women, I cannot but recall the origins of my own organization, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. UNECE was first established in 1947 to support the economic reconstruction of Europe and to forge regional economic relations as a means of post-conflict confidence building and contribution to recovery of the larger region. Our mandate focuses on development rather than peace and security issues. As a regional commission, we promote economic integration and cooperation among our 56 member states and support them in advancing implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Gender equality is a critical principle of our work. As Executive Secretary of UNECE, I am deeply committed to advancing gender equality for the region throughout all dimensions of our mandate. This includes, for example, economic empowerment of women and the mainstreaming of gender considerations and inclusion in technical standardization work in several domains, such as trade facilitation, energy, transport, and statistics. As a technical cooperation, we place premium on data and evidence-based policy development. Among the trends in our region, I would like to highlight 3 areas of concern that we need to address. First, we need to step up our efforts to reach SDG 5. According to the UNECE 2023 SDG Progress Report, the UNECE region is on track to achieve just 1 of the 9 targets of Goal 5. For 5 targets, we do not even have enough data available to assess our progress against basic measures, such as equal economic rights or violence against women and girls. UNECE hosts the Conference of European Statisticians, which develops guidelines and methodologies for harmonized, reliable, comparable official statistics, with a strong focus on gender disaggregated data and statistics to improve the monitoring of gender equality in all of its dimensions across the region. Through this work, we have identified many best practices for improving gender data and statistics, but challenges remain. Political will and extensive capacity building are needed to improve the situation and to enable a more systemic monitoring of gender equality, including those aspects affected by conflict. Secondly, we need to counter a growing movement opposing gender equality and human rights principles that we are experiencing also in our region. Opposition to gender equality legislation, rejection of established international instruments, and a decreasing civic space have all become worrisome realities in recent years. The pushback is a direct obstacle to continued progress on SDG 5 and threatens to reverse progress on gains made thus far. The UN Secretary-General noted this phenomenon in opposition to women's rights in his address to the Commission on the Status of Women in 2022. We must push back on the pushback, he said, and indeed we must. In this context, UNECE will continue to advocate for inclusion and gender equality as paramount considerations, as we did most recently at the ICPD 30 conference we hosted last October on the theme of population and development, ensuring rights and choices. The conference highlighted that gender equality and women's empowerment create strong communities, stable economies, and resilient societies, and cause lasting and positive change. Among other areas, we take this work forward in our work streams on population aging, where we cover the intersection between age and gender and the disproportionate vulnerability of older women. It is also a focus in our work stream on gender-responsive standards. Indeed, the lack of balanced participation and lack of gender-responsive standards has resulted in unnecessary health and safety risks for women and girls and led to standards having unequal impacts and/or unintended consequences, such as negative financial impacts or lower quality of life. Finally, we need to remedy the disproportionate impact of war on women. The analysis by UN Women in Ukraine, for example, has shown that the war has exacerbated pre-existing inequalities, as well as gender-based violence, conflict-related sexual violence, and trafficking. As relates to the economic situation of women, the reliance of women on unprotected informal sectors of employment has increased as a result of conflict. Similarly, conflict-related displacement affects economic equality for women through direct income-earning setbacks. I can give a concrete example of how we mainstream these concerns in our work. In a German-funded project we started last year to enhance urban planning in Kharkiv and Mykolaiv, we recognized the structural interlinkages between gender equality and sustainable urban development and hope to give specific consideration to the conflict and urban recovery dynamics that are particular to women and girls, especially in related to economic participation and recovery. In a nutshell, only tools and instruments that promote and protect gender equality are fit for purpose towards achieving the SDGs. We need to continue to advocate for this tirelessly across all areas of our multilateral collaborative work and take concrete action to upgrade our approaches. This brings me to an important event. On the 21st to the 22nd of October, UNECE will convene, together with UN Women, the Beijing Plus 30 Regional Review Meeting in Geneva. This meeting leads up to the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which will be celebrated at the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women in March 2025. The meeting will facilitate a review and appraisal of progress made in the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action over the last 5 years and accelerate the realization of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls. I hope you will join us and contribute to this holistic stocktake where we stand and help to identify solutions to the remaining challenges. I would like to once again thank the organisers and their supporting partners for bringing us together today on this important topic. I take the opportunity to reaffirm my commitment to working with all relevant stakeholders to maintain gender equality firmly in the spotlight of our region. Let me conclude by quoting a remark from the UN Secretary-General. We cannot separate the perilous state of peace in our world from long-standing structures of patriarchy and exclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Thank you very much. Please thank also Ms. Molchian for that report, this very informative report. You lead an important organization in a huge area. Thank you for your work, and thank you for coming to our event today. For the sake of time, I think I will ask each speaker to speak one after another. I think there are many questions that will come from the room afterwards. This is such an important topic, so I will ask each speaker to speak one after another first. Our next speaker will be Mrs. Adriana Quinones. She's the head of the Human Rights and Development for UN Women and deputy head of the Geneva office. For the last 14 years, she has held posts at UNIFEM and UN Women as country representative, policy advisor in Asia and Latin America, and manager of the UN Trust Fund to end violence against women and girls in New York. She has more than 20 years of experience leading efforts in the areas of gender equality, elimination of gender-based violence, and women's economic empowerment. Mrs. Quinones, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting UN Women to this very timely discussion. For us, peace cannot be achieved without women. I will share with you some statistics, but also some of the work that UN Women is leading so that we can all unite efforts, so that you feel part of this process and that we can build this peace with women. The current international situation is terrifying and worrying. Armed conflicts are escalating around the world, disproportionately affecting women and girls. The end of 2023 saw the highest number of active violent conflicts since the Second World War. The number of women and girls in conflict-affected contexts has risen by 50% since 2017 and 614 million in 2022, opening the door to protracted low development and catastrophic consequences across generations. In this context, women and girls face an elevated risk of sexual gender-based violence, which continues to be a weapon of war, poverty, and food insecurity. In Yemen, an estimated 76% of internally displaced people are women and children. In Gaza, UN Women estimates that over 10,000 women have been killed as of April 2024. Amongst them, an estimated 6,000 women left 19,000 orphan children behind, and those who have survived have been displaced, widowed, and facing starvation. Our last gender analysis tells us that more than 1 million women and girls in Gaza have almost no food and no access to safe water, latrines, washrooms, or sanitary pads, while the risk of related diseases is growing. In Ukraine, the report of the Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine presented at the Human Rights Council session 55 recounted in detail several cases of conflict-related sexual violence, targeting women and girls aged 15 to 83 years of age. UN Women supported the design of a strategy for the prevention of conflict-related sexual violence in the country. The overall UN verified cases of conflict-related sexual violence has reached 3,688 cases in 2023. Women and girls accounted for more than 3,522 of the reported cases, or 95%. The meaningful participation of women at all levels of decision-making to build peace is not just a matter of equality, it is strategic and sustainable imperative for peace and development. Women have borne the brunt of conflict and violence, yet their voices have often been marginalized in peace processes and decision-making fora. The figures speak for themselves. Despite some progress made in participation, women remain largely excluded from formal peace processes and negotiations. Women participated as conflict party negotiators or delegates in 4 of 5 active United Nations-led or co-led peace processes in 2022. At the Security Council, 46% of women were invited to speak, compared to 19% on average between 2013 and 2017. Of 18 peace agreements reached in 2022, only one was signed or witnessed by a representative of a women's group or organization, while only 6 included provisions referencing women, girls, or gender. Dear colleagues, when women are included in peace-building efforts, the outcomes are more comprehensive, enduring, and inclusive. Women bring new perspectives, experiences, and skills to the table. They are agents of change, catalysts for reconciliation, and champions of social cohesion. One example, also highlighted by the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict in her last report, published just in April of this year, is Guatemala. Indigenous women broke the silence about sexual violence, slavery, and domestic violence suffered during the Civil War. The trial resulted in a landmark verdict in 2016 when Guatemalan court convicted 2 former military members of sexual violence, sexual slavery, and domestic slavery committed against Maya Quechua women in a near military outpost in a town called Sepursarco. This is one of the first examples worldwide of a domestic court prosecuting through the application of national and international laws sexual slavery in the context of armed conflict. The ruling of Sepursarco included 18 measures of reparation, 16 of them related to transformative actions, including building a school for the community, having a health center, and land rights among the measures, which means the importance of addressing the structural conditions and inequalities, the discrimination that led to the conflict in the first place. This process is being supported by UN Women with other partners and is starting to transform the position of women from victims to survivors and leaders in their community. In Colombia, we have the example of a peace process where sexual violence in conflict cannot be part of the amnesty, where for the first time there were delegations of women from the government and from the guerrilla parties. And there's still a struggle to continue to implement the measures that came out, but the voices of women will not be silenced as they are integral part of those peace agreements. In the 60 years of conflict in Colombia, more than 400,000 women have been victims of homicide in the context of the armed conflict, and there are more than 57,000 women victims of forced displacement. But the broad participation using 1325 resolution that UN Women supports is helping the way to build those structures, to build those good practices that can enhance peace. I would like to invite you all to have ownership about these processes, because it's women who have struggled for years and years to make sure they have a place at the table. They are specific programs and measures to include their participation, but also the transformative processes that they can lead after peace. In line with this, I would like to share with you that on Tuesday we will have a presentation here in Geneva at the Geneva Center for Security Policy Studies of the Women, Peace, Security, and Humanitarian Action Compact that was launched as part of Generation Equality in celebration of the Beijing Plus 30 agenda, and it gathers more than 200 signatories working for sustainable and inclusive peace. The objectives of this compact are financing women, peace and security, and gender and humanitarian action. As we know, we have many countries now with action plans for women, peace and security, but not necessarily the funding to implement them and evaluate them. Women's meaningful participation in peace processes, women's economic security, access to resources and other essential services, women's leadership and agency across peace, security, and humanitarian sectors, and the protection of women in conflict in crisis contexts. My goal, being here in Geneva as part of UN Women, is to bring those conversations from the global to what we are doing in Geneva, and to bring back those experiences that we have from the Human Rights Council for all the work that UN agencies based here are doing in support of sustainable peace. So I invite you to this, to see this program, to join us, to be signatories of the compact, and to continue building together towards sustainable peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see you are very conscious of time and you try to be fast. I'm sure there will be more time for questions. Please prepare your questions, because This is a sobering report, with very enlightening, but also with details, and I think it's worth to, everyone is very interested to know more about such a very important topic. Thank you, Ms. Quinones, thank you. Then we will have a third speaker. Actually, our third speaker will give us a message from the field, recorded on video. She's not here with us, but she sent us a video from Lebanon. I think she may be with us online. Dr. Svetlana Jovic has an extensive experience working on peace and security in politically sensitive conflict and post-conflict environments for the UN and international organizations. She worked in Croatia, Kosovo, Rwanda, and now Lebanon. She's engaged in conflict prevention, mediation and negotiations, and the promotion of women's role in decision-making and local development. Currently, Ms. Jovic is deployed as a team leader in the United Nations Peace Operation UNIFIL, Civil Affairs Sectors west of Lebanon. Let us listen to the video.
Good afternoon from Beirut. First of all, allow me to thank you for this opportunity to participate in the session under the title No Peace Without Women, since this topic is very close to my heart. Most of my professional life I have spent working in UN peace operations, witnessing a crucial role women carried out during the conflicts. I will share my experience from Lebanon, a pilot project on empowerment women, because I believe that each of us can contribute in its own way by engaging in peacemaking and peace building. But before I move to Lebanon case study, I wish to share with you some data related to the role of women in the process of building peace since the adoption of UN Resolution 1325. 24 years have passed of the adoption, and women's voice and influence remain unheard, overlooked, and disregarded. The striking absence of women from formal peace negotiation reveals a troubling gap between the aspirations of countless global and regional commitments UN has invested and the reality of peace process. Data analysis are showing today that despite of evidence, women's participation in formal peace processes remains low. Our voices are absent from conflict negotiation processes. Even though that the adoption of the resolution was because the evidence showed that higher level of gender equality is directly related to increased level of security and stability. Just to share a few data on that, the recent ones that were published. For more, you can check the UN Peace, Women, Peace and Security sites. So, in 2022, women represented only 16% of negotiators in active peace process led or co-led by United Nations, which is a decline compared to the years before. In 2020, 23% women were active in the peace process. No women were included in negotiation teams for conflicts in Ethiopia, Myanmar, the Balkans, Sudan or Yemen. Of the 18 peace agreements concluded in 2022, only one had a signatory of women. Yet there are examples proving that women's participation in peace process increases probability of a peace agreement lasting at least 2 years by 20%, and peace agreement lasting 15 years for 35%. The international community is increasingly acknowledging this gap, and it's becoming obvious that having resolution was not and may not be enough to resolve the gap that is happening in the praxis. So what can we do? How we as individuals can contribute and what can be done on our level as practitioners. I think that each of us has a role to play and responsibility to act. So that is the reason I wish to share this experience about how we built women capacity through the project implemented in South Lebanon. It was in 2018, it was in collaboration with UN Women, and the training served to contribute to the peace building in Lebanon and the implementation of Security Council Resolution, Women, Peace and Security. So more than 2,000 women were trained from area of Tyre and Abbasiyah in South Lebanon in a series of trainings in mediation and conflict prevention. They had diverse background. They were teachers, farmers, lawyers, university professors. They had we had environment activists and students. So they were coming from traditional conservative environment, community not open to easily accept women's active role in the society. The project objective was to build women's capacity in local and to create a local mediation network that would take an active role in decreasing tensions in their community. How? By providing them with skills necessary to be able to deal with the conflict resolution, to learn to have the tools, and to deal with inter-community tensions. 2 years the training was ongoing, and it was done by university, Conflict Management University, and to develop the skills. But the work also had to be done with their husbands, with their mayors, with their fathers, with the religious leaders, with neighbors, with local officials. With all of them, they had to understand the purpose and the benefits of having their women being trained in mediation and negotiations. Slowly, they became involved in local affairs. They got called upon by families, by schools, by individuals and institutions that having problems internally and not being able or not being equipped with the tools to deal with the conflict. They were very active. And now, during the current crisis, since October 23, we see them being even more active and more engaged with the community. First of all, with the displaced women that were affected by hostilities in the south, women who lost their homes, who lost their relatives, women who are living in displacement with their children, with their husbands, and in the shelters where life is maybe not dignified and with many problems that are facing on the daily basis, starting with getting food, with getting a space for yourself, etc. Here, our women, our trained women, become so active, so useful to the society. They're actively engaged in conflict resolution. They're using their skills in resolving local disputes, disputes with the host community, disputes with the humanitarian actors who are bringing assistance. They're diffusing intercommunal tensions too. This case maybe looks insignificant from the outside, but in my experience, any effort in planting a seed of peace is worth taking. Any effort in empowering women to gain skills, to participate in a dialogue, in decision making, is a step forward in increasing the number of us working for peace. Thank you very much, and wishing you a good seminar. Goodbye.
Well, thank you very much,
Ms. Dr. Jovic, if you are listening to us from Lebanon, I want to thank you very much. I think all of you thank you very much because you gave a very practical, very stimulating report, and we really appreciate and admire your dedication in the field. Thank you very much for this. And now I would like to call on our next speaker. Our next speaker will be Ms. Caroline Hanshin, who is the president of the NGO Committee on the Status of Women at the United Nations in Geneva. She's also the vice president of Women's Federation for World Peace International and director of WFWPI Office for United Nations Relations globally. She has been leading the advocacy team at the United Nations in Geneva since 1997. Caroline has created and co-created various leadership curricula for women, especially young women, and she has organized many international conferences, particularly in the Middle East. Caroline, the floor is yours. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jacques. Also, I just wanted to begin by saying thank you to our other panelists here. Closer? Yeah. It's true, as Shruti said, it seems it's far away. But I'm really so appreciative of the fact that Hillary, you came representing UNECE, and Adriana, UN Women, and actually also my friend Svetlana, because these are UN bodies that take so seriously relations with civil society, actually really making extra effort to work together and to listen to the concerns of civil society. Anyway, myself, I see there are some of my committee members here in the audience. Maybe want to raise your hands? I see Bert and Donatella. There were a few others too, Astrid and a few others, and Karen, actually. But we are very, to work together on initiatives with these organizations is really a great, not only a great honor, but it really makes a great, multiplies by so many times the impact and the possibility. So, and also I wanted to say that actually Adriana is actually the acting director of UN Women. She has again gone up a grade, I think, in the system there. So anyway, thank you so much, taking time for this meeting as well. So the goal of this meeting, I said a few words at the beginning, at the introduction earlier, that I will repeat, but the goal of this meeting is mobilization. It's not just talking. It's mobilization to end wars, to solve disagreements and misunderstandings through dialogue, through listening, and committing to move forward together. So this is really meant to be a campaign. It's very similar in so many ways to the Culture of Peace program, of which many of us were very, very engaged for back in the early 2000s. A campaign that influences vision for the future, behavior, norms, and beginning with women. Actually, I saw the most powerful supporters of that campaign were women and women organizations. So why are we convinced that there is no peace possible without women? Why is that true? Obviously, creating a peaceful environment involves everyone. But one lone terrorist can destroy peace temporarily, as Dr. Pillay said before. But we don't have to leave it like that. We can be united not to let one lone terrorist or one war or disagreement, break peace down. What do women bring to peace, to living in peace? Well, women were almost non-existent in the records of the history of wars. They were not fighting on the front lines, usually. There were very few memorials built to women. They were not present at peace tables, now more, but still not enough. There were no signatories on the different peace agreements. Yet when someone really takes time to look at the other half of the picture, women were so involved, fully, to make up for the destructive effects of war. how women were usually uncomplainingly making up for the absence of men who had gone off to war, running their businesses, holding communities and households together, working in the factories or the farms, caring for injured and infirm elderly, raising children and protecting them from daily tragic news, still unable to stop or slow down in the face of grief, fatigue, or hopelessness. Women were assuming leadership, providing a haven of peace in hell without any rank or funding. And women were and are amazing in their ingenuity and their solidarity among themselves. They often after the war, women's newfound capacities as leaders were forgotten, brushed aside. Such are the stories that I've heard from Guatemala, Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Bosnia, Ukraine, on and on and on. Pictures of the women of Dresden rebuilding their devastated city with their bare hands during World War II come to mind. The Trümmerfrauen, pronounced okay, Heiner? Trümmerfrauen, yeah. After 360,000 died in the bombing in Dresden, just in a few days, these women got together and got to work, and with love in their hearts, they started rebuilding their city literally by hand in many cases. But what was it that motivated them? Love. Actually, it was love. Impassioned because they could project this effort into the tangible happiness of their own families, their children, their husbands, and their neighbors. War is more intimate and personal to women, usually. This is often what women add to their peace leadership profiles, yet actually we don't usually write it in. It's just unwritten. Women have unique skills and power when they negotiate or sit down at the table to end conflicts. The women of ancient Athens and Sparta discovered an ingenious way of ending the war between the two city-states. I'm sure some of you have heard of this. They withheld sex from their menfolk until the warriors cease fighting and sit down to settle their terms. And in that case, it actually worked, we heard. The role that women play to keep peace in their families and communities is known. I mean, we live it. It has taken centuries to announce in the public arena that women must also be included in peace building beyond their families. And I think all of our speakers today, almost all, mentioned this particular document, the Security Council Resolution 1325. But it is actually the same qualities, the same skills and experiences that are in use even in a family or in a community, in an interpersonal relationship that is actually needed at the global level. So famously, in the year 2000, which we've heard, the Women, Peace, and Security Agenda began. It seemed to announce something revolutionary, moving women with one decision from weak victims to necessary agents and leaders for peace, opening some doors, but as we discover, we still need to walk through them. We still need to push further. Of course, many good things have come out of this, but for instance, the financial support that can be garnered, for getting statistics, which these incredible statistics, for instance, that both UNECE and UN Women and other agencies are able to put together about war and even reconciliation and things that are difficult to calculate. UN Women said in cases of strong influence of women, an agreement is almost always reached. I had many statistics actually, but I think many of them were already said. But just that is kind of explains a lot, that women have not been allowed in, but when they are allowed in with influence in a good quantity, actually it critically changes the outcome. And it depends on the quality of the women, of course. But we know there are different stages of losing peace to conflict, going from the pre-conflict outbreak to violence, to war, to end of war, decided by a few, to reconciliation after reconstruction, and even monitoring implementation. Some of these are well-known. Some of those are not so actually considered so important, but actually are very, very important. But all these are similar to the process of preventing or reconciling family quarrels. So which stage is most important, and which stage is most important for this idea of no peace without women? I would say it's the pre-conflict stage. Most important is to avert war in the first place, to solve our disagreements, to manage our disagreements, which has also been said by several speakers. Prevention is underrated. Prevention and reconciliation, both areas that women are the strongest, are actually very underrated and difficult to calculate, in fact. So the core of the No Peace Without Women strategy is related especially to these areas. But women must be let into each stage. We cannot just let the warlords make the plans, as we cannot even just let women make the plans. All those invested for the future have to be engaged. Those who understand what has been lost and what is needed for a thriving future, giving consideration to these different areas, unhealed wounds and reconciliation. So thoughtful and just reconstruction plan involving those who will be living there, that is also a form of reconciliation and preventing the next outbreak. There are many remarkable women leaders, but I just wanted to mention one, and her name is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, because I had some experience with her recently. She spoke at our No Peace Without Women event that we had in the Balkans. She sent a message. Our campaign was touched by her personal passion for empowering girls and women. She had been imprisoned, almost executed. She was the president of Liberia. I think everyone knows that. But she turned her calamity into a heroism. She established soon after, a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. So we know about South Africa, but we don't know about many other good practice models, actually, of great women who are involved in peace around the world. But becoming a hero needs a cause. It needs a vision, a goal, where individualism is prevalent in countries or areas. A mind-broadening incentive is missing. Do young people not want to have a higher calling? I mean, we heard from Shruti, and we all do. Women's Federation conferences at the EU Parliament, one of our conferences at the EU Parliament on mothers and youth radicalization, with partners of the UNODC and IOM, gave some insight into this idea. One speaker's academic research delved into why young women join jihadist groups. Her conclusion, after many interviews, was oftentimes seeking prominent positions that they couldn't find in their daily lives. But we can provide better opportunities than that. Another woman-led campaign, again someone involved with one of our partners for this meeting, she was the former First Lady of Palau in the beautiful Pacific Ocean, and she created something, or she kind of initiated something called the Palau Pledge. I went there to a meeting with her of the First Ladies Association, and in order to get into the country, before you leave the airport, you have to sign a promise that you will not damage the environment of that country while you're there. And you cannot get any further if you don't do that. So this seems like something impossible for us to do. We can't do it, it's just not possible. But actually there are many things that seemed not possible which were done when there's a certain amount of will and a certain solidarity, and of course when it's a good cause. So she demanded in writing from visitors to agree to that. And actually the campaign was more than that, because she rallied so many of the young people from that country to be involved in this and to really get involved with preserving the environment and nature. And it's an incredibly beautiful place. So living in peace is learned through responsible action, considering our positive or negative influence on the other and hopefully receiving good validation. The nature of peace is that it cannot be imposed. It is a contract of respect and empathy among people and with their leaders. Peace, we heard this too, peace is never static. It is always developing, engaging, multiplying, working out obstacles, never stopping to try. The closest analogy we have for world peace is, again, back to what my husband was saying before, is family, is human family, often referred to even in UN documents, because that somehow gives us a vision of what that might be, world peace, where simply said, we hear it in the, in the SDG preamble and in Lilo and Stitch, the cartoon, no one will be left behind in a context of family. So I think only women can lead such a grassroots campaign. As they have done before, as they had access to positions of power, the women's peace movement after World War I, remember what Berta Sutter said? She said, why is it that no one tries to remove ink stains with ink? Oh yeah, sorry. Why is it that no one tries to remove ink stains with ink? But it is believed that blood can be removed by more blood. It's very profound, simple but very profound ideas, actually. So the broad consensus and solidarity for demands, which is often initiated by women at the local front, have led to incredible change historically. Changing of norms, behaviors, not thought possible before. I mean, the suffrage movement, votation, even landmines, smoking in public areas, these are all campaigns that actually made things happen that we didn't think possible. So not accepting war as a human behavior, that's a big goal, but it begins with deciding together in solidarity, creating our mindset, resetting priorities, and perhaps a cliche, but that is, I think, no, that's right. Yeah. Actually change behavior. Sorry, that's a very important point. Creating a new mindset, resetting priorities and norms, but something that actually has to begin with me changing my mindset, my norms, and my behavior. And that's something I referred to in the introductory remarks, and that was what I think also was a little bit the problem with the Culture of Peace program. There were certain missing elements related to family and related to really being able to measure my own change as an advocate for that campaign. I think, again, we could think that out a little bit better. Perhaps a cliche, but true, seeds of peace and future peace leadership begin in families. Belligerent global leaders and even saintly icons began forming their worldviews at very, very early ages. Women are more convinced about this. They have confidence to lead with this concept in mind. Have you not considered how even the world leaders that begin wars with one command are influenceable by their wives? Can we be better influencers? Can we realistically decide no more war or no peace without women? Who can lead this drive? I think women could, as they have done in other moments in history and as we all do on a small scale every day. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you for your report, your speech. It's like both a personal testimony, but also you give us many insights from years and years of work, hard work. I know you for many years, and so it's great to see you in the environment of the United Nations here with other great UN leaders and see the kind of the dimension of the work you're doing. Thank you very much. This is very stimulating. And now we will go to our next and final speaker before we have the audience come with comments and questions. Our final speaker will be Miss Anne Monita. She's the Vice President of the International Association of Youth and Students for Peace, IYSP, in Cambodia. She's dedicated to fostering understanding and peace among young individuals. She's involved in charity work and endeavors to make a positive impact on the community. One of her proudest achievements is the establishment of schools in Cambodia, providing students with access to quality education and empowering them to build a brighter future. Ms. Almonita, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, esteemed guests, fellow advocates for peace, speakers, and women in Cambodia and all around the world. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to Ms. Caroline Henshin and Mr. Henner Henshin for inviting me to speak today's program on No Peace Without Women at the United Nations in Geneva. Their dedications to women's rights as a foundation for peace building is truly inspiring. And on behalf of the International Association of Youth and Students for Peace Cambodia, I stand before you today with my highest gratitude. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me to participate and share my thought on this crucial theme, No Peace Without Women. My name is Ann Monita, Vice President of IYSP Cambodia, where the youth, the women, hold the key to lasting peace on earth. Dr. Hachahan Moon, who we fascinately call her as a Mother of Peace, established IYSP in 2017 to raise young people to be the hope of the world. IYSP is the global family of young people who are building a world of peace with true love, and this includes with the participation of women working towards true peace. The absence of women from peace talks weakens their sustainability, including women, isn't just about equality, but it's bring valuable perspective and strategies to the table. And the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, as Ms. Andres mentioned, about women, peace, and security, which mark a crucial step towards recognizing women's role. And you must know that peace begins at home. Peace begins not just with global leaders, but within the hearts of every family. Imagine peace not just a distant dream, but a seed planting within the heart of every family. This seed is nurtured by the unwavering love and compassion of a mother. Mothers are the architects of our values, the weavers of strong family bonds, and the inspiring role models who teach us empathy and cooperation. From this foundation of love, peaceful relationships blossom, and a sense of social responsibility takes root. This empowering mothers isn't just about fairness, but about empowering the very foundation of peace itself. So when we invest in mothers, we cultivate a generation of peacemakers, which one nurturing families at a time. And this begins with a woman. Peace begins with the woman who holds the future in her arms, our mother. Cambodia offers a powerful example of women actively rebuilding their communities after devastating conflict. So Cambodian women who endured the Khmer Rouge area who leading the charge in reconciliation efforts, organizations like Cambodian Women Crisis Center are the vital in advocating for women participations in peace building. For example, of actual woman named Tep Wani, who is positively permanent in Cambodia society. So from community leaders to activists, Cambodian women who have taken a critical roles fostering economic development, community healing, and advocating for justice. For instance, in Cambodia, during the NSA-7 mandate, the proportion of women in top leadership positions increased from 14.75% to 16.13% in the Senate. But the number of the female members of the National Assembly decreased from 20.8% to 13.6%. The number of the women at the subnational level has seen positive growth. However, their participation as a commune chief and council member increased from 130, about 8%, to 176, about 11%. Women involvement in peace building helps prevent future conflicts by fostering a culture of peace and understanding. Cambodia ranks first among Asian countries and the 13th out of 120 countries who's sending the women soldier on the UN peacekeeping operations. And we all know that the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals provide a framework to address the global issues like poverty, inequality, and climate change. So by aligning our efforts of the SDGs, we can create more just and a sustainable world. For example, like cultural norms often confine young women to domestic roles, limited their potential. We all must break free from these stereotypes and empower them instead. So young women possess a unique perspective, experiences, and the potential to drive positive change. Their voices are vital for inclusive policy, social cohesion, and positive change. Their voices are vital for inclusive, and then we have to encourage them, young women, to participate in peace building, unlock a wealth of creativity and resilience which is needed for a peaceful and prosperous Cambodia. True peace encompasses social, economic, and political aspects. These require diverse voices to be fully realized. So young women with their passion and visions for a brighter future are the key agent of change. By empowering them through education, activism, and leadership roles, we can champion gender equality, create a society where peace flourishes, and ensures opportunities for all. My presence here and the countless young women out there who is actively shaping a better future serve as a reminder that there can be no peace without women. So each of us has the power to contribute this collective effort. Let us engage in open the dialogue with people of different backgrounds and beliefs. Advocates for peaceful solution in our communities and support organizations working toward peace. Every action, no matter how small, it will contribute to a more peaceful world. And you must all remember that you are not alone. Countless individuals and organizations out there, including young women around the world, who is actively working for peace. So together, through collaborations, through action, we can make a difference. So let us carry this momentum forward, continuing to work collaboratively for a more peaceful future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Anne-Monita. Thank you for sharing your experience. You're also sharing from your country of Cambodia. I was in Cambodia last year and I saw many young scholars, men and women, really with a great vision and power for bringing your country forward. Thank you very much for being here with us on this panel. Now we have time for questions and answers. We have about 15-20 minutes. We first have one short comment. It will be in French, so please listen to your, through your earphones, and it will be read by Mr. Christina. Please be short. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Ça marche? Oui, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis Christine Exembert, présidente de l'association Cap Diversité. Et nous militons pour la paix et pour l'égalité, car l'égalité a un lien crucial dans la construction et le maintien de la paix. Et je voudrais remercier Madame Caroline Hanshin, je prononce pas mal, présidente des ONG à l'ONU, ainsi qu'à Monsieur Jacques Marion, président de la Fédération de paix universelle. Je suis très honorée d'être invitée avec une délégation de Cap Diversité à cet important événement en faveur de la paix. Mon intervention sera très, très, très courte. Alors, en effet, Ça fait 24 ans que le Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies a adopté la résolution 1325 concernant les femmes, la paix et la sécurité. Cette décision historique a reconnu que les femmes ils vivaient la guerre de manière très différente des hommes et que les femmes des nations sont une ressource inexploitée pour ce qui est de consolider la paix. Mais malgré cette résolution, les femmes continuent à subir les lourds fardeaux des conflits et elles sont sous-représentées dans les décisions concernant leur sécurité et leurs droits. Elles sont que 12 000 femmes dans les 12 missions de maintien de la paix à travers le monde. La participation des femmes dans les opérations de maintien de paix démontre que leurs actions sont toujours efficaces. Elles améliorent les missions en favorisant la promotion des droits de l'homme et la protection des civils. En tant que porteuses de vie, les femmes sont motivées par un instinct de survie profondément enraciné, car elles sont dévouées à leurs enfants. Malgré les défis constants et les menaces auxquelles les femmes font face, elles sont la preuve d'une persévérance admirable, d'une imagination sans fin pour anticiper et éviter les risques face aux situations dangereuses. On constate que les femmes agissent naturellement et pacifiquement en faveur de la paix, par leur force de résilience essentielle pour construire un monde plus sûr et plus harmonieux. Compte tenu de ces constats positifs de l'implication des femmes dans la construction de la paix, il est évident plus que jamais qu'il n'y aura pas de paix sans les femmes. Une étude effectuée sur 585 accords de paix conclus entre 1990 et 2010 a montré que seulement 16% de ces dernières comportaient une référence aux femmes. Hein? D'accord, oui. Donc, après la résolution 1325, on se rend compte qu'il n'y a pas eu beaucoup de changements. Alors, le message que je veux faire passer aujourd'hui, c'est de prendre conscience que l'intervention des femmes changerait les décisions concernant les conflits armés. Alors, refusons aujourd'hui, hommes et femmes, d'accepter que l'humanité soit toujours condamnée à la violence de la guerre. Refusons les viols et la violence faite aux femmes. Refusons la mort de millions d'enfants innocents. Refusons aujourd'hui la destruction et la mort. Nous demandons des mesures concrètes pour que ce changement soit efficace. Et je finirai pour citer Martin Luther King, « Celui qui accepte le mal sans lutter contre lui, coopère avec lui. » Injustice, 3 secondes, je finis. Injustice commise quelque part est une menace pour la justice dans le monde. N'oublions jamais que Dieu a les bras ouverts, étendus, pour tous, sans distinction d'origine, de couleur, de peau. Nous sommes tous des êtres humains. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your message. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine. Actually, we have a delegation. More than 70 people came from Lyon, from France, by bus today just for this event. That's why we wanted to have this lady, Miss Christine, to come and give a few words representing the delegation. Thank you very much for your message and for your passionate message and work in your organization. Thank you very much. Now is the time for a question. So please raise your hands. Okay, first this lady here, and then this man here. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Yes, I make a remark that we have to very much consider the influence of mass media in the peacemaking and peace-preventing concern. So we, in this moment, are under a very massive influence of enemy image culture. So we are told that we have to have an enemy, and we have to fight him or her or the nation or the virus or anyway. We need first to have an enemy, and we have to subjugate that enemy. And in order to have this result done, we need to be protected by some force or someone or nation or organization. So the problem is that to foster an enemy image culture is completely against the female dignity. It goes completely against what we feel that is good to educate for peace. And so I want to ask if somebody can answer this question. What can we do against this massive toxic media influence?
Go ahead.
I can. Are you, or you want to collect more?
No, it's okay.
So again, thanks so much for being with us today in the afternoon of a Friday to speak about peace. I completely agree with you that we have a very important role to play in terms of what messages go out to people, what kind of interactions are being constructed or promoted. And there's some work that UN Women is doing with internet companies, with artificial intelligence, because it is influencing the messages that we are all receiving. And we are very concerned actually about the pushback against gender equality and all the gains that have been made and how they're being contested without any evidence, and really building a movement that is not helping us build more equitable society. So in the end, all that 1325 has been about is including women, promoting solutions that support the development of communities on the ground, and more we're seeing that, how it's affecting climate, how it's affecting migration, how it's affecting the development of technology. So the correlation of all these topics is definitely something that we need to work on. We work with the private sector also to enhance their practices internally, and there are several media companies that have signed on to this, and we are also participating in something that's called the On-Stereotype Alliance to promote the evidence that we have on why including women in development has worked, why it is important to have women in decision-making, what kind of policies are advancing and what is creating that advancement. And we also see a lot of still legislation that is providing obstacles to the full inclusion of women and girls. We are seeing some reversals, for example, on traditional norms that we have worked so hard for, like legislation on female genital mutilation that is being wanting to be regressed in some settings. So all this form part of this peace building, because imagine being born a girl and being subject to female genital mutilation, to sexual violence, to early marriage, to forced migration, to trafficking. And this is the situation that is faced when there is conflicts and when there is insecurity and when there are no equal opportunities for women and girls.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You want to add? No.
Perhaps just a brief comment, and thanks for the question. It's a huge question, and it's a frightening question. And I think UN Women have more of a mandate to have their finger on the pulse of this, as Adriana has spoken to, which is, wonderful to hear. And we work closely with UN Women to ensure that we're on the same sheet when it comes to some of these challenges. But just one contribution from the perspective of UNECE. I don't think that there's a singular silver bullet response to all of the challenges that your question alludes to. But one thing that is important for the Secretary General, and that we have tried to adopt in a serious way in UNECE, is a strategic foresight mindset. So, there's a lot of questions of what comes after the SDGs, and I think there's a general appreciation that we're facing a very uncertain world, with the rapid evolution of technology being just one aspect. Within a strategic foresight mindset, it's a little bit more about being ready for uncertainty and an ability to respond to it, rather than predicting the uncertainty and responding to that. So it's something that we're trying to embed in the culture of how we do business in UNECE, and I think it's also getting traction across other parts of the UN system as well. And we'll see where that takes us. But just a contribution to the answer that was already given. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, second question here, Mr. Jafari.
Merci. Je vais parler en français si... merci beaucoup. Je m'appelle Reza Jafari. Je viens de France, mais je suis originaire d'Afghanistan. Je suis très étonné et un petit peu choqué puisque la deuxième session parlait sur les droits des femmes, ou plutôt paix, pas de paix sans les femmes. Mais malheureusement, je n'ai pas entendu parler des femmes afghanes, alors qu'aujourd'hui, 16 millions de femmes afghanes sont dans une prison à ciel ouvert qui s'appelle l'Afghanistan, dirigée par un régime complètement totalitaire. Elles n'ont plus aucun droit. Le dernier rapport du département des États-Unis montre sur la violence faite aux femmes. Les femmes sont violées, les femmes sont dans les prisons. Et je ne vais pas citer les femmes qui travaillent avec nous, avec les organisations, avec les associations, qui sont arrêtées par les talibans. Et à chaque fois, quand elles sont libérées, elles se trouvent dans les pays voisins, dans les pays limitrophes, comme l'Iran et le Pakistan. Souvent, on voit que l'ONU parle de ces femmes, mais aujourd'hui, la plupart de ces femmes, on sait que sont dans les pires conditions possibles dans les pays voisins. Et comme elles n'ont plus de visa, elles peuvent se faire expulser vers l'Afghanistan et elles vont être de nouveau arrêtées par les talibans, torturées et peut-être cette fois-ci exécutées par les talibans. Vous avez parlé de la Palestine, de Ukraine, de Colombie, de Guatemala. Je suis conscient, je suis aussi un humaniste, je travaille avec la Fédération pour la paix universelle, mais aussi avec la Fédération des femmes pour la paix universelle. Je suis moi-même président d'un mouvement qui s'appelle Afghan Peace Dialogue. Je suis d'accord qu'il n'y aura pas de paix sans les femmes, il n'y aura pas de paix sans les minorités ethniques et religieuses. Et c'est pour cela qu'on organise beaucoup d'événements. Et souvent, on invite les femmes afghanes à prendre la parole. Aujourd'hui, 16 millions de femmes afghanes, et je ne vois pas de représentants des femmes afghanes, mais les représentants de l'ONU Femmes ou de UN Women, malheureusement, n'ont pas parlé de la situation. J'espère que désormais, les organisations qui sont ici et aussi UN Women soient les porte-parole des femmes afghanes, parce que vous savez, les femmes afghanes, leur voix est étouffée aujourd'hui par les talibans. Vous avez parlé d'autres conférences sur la femme, sécurité, paix et développement à l'ONU. J'espère que les femmes afghanes seront invitées. Et aujourd'hui, beaucoup de femmes, ma question, c'est beaucoup de femmes afghanes travaillent sur la reconnaissance d'apartheid de genre en Afghanistan. Êtes-vous en contact avec ces femmes? Si oui, est-ce que vous allez les aider ou reconnaître l'apartheid de genre en Afghanistan? Parce que pour les femmes, cette question est très importante. 16 millions de femmes afghanes aujourd'hui n'ont plus aucun droit. Je répète, les femmes ne sont pas la moitié de la société, les femmes sont la société, madame. Merci.
Thank you so much, and I apologize that I didn't mention some data of Afghanistan, but I would like to let you know that the largest office of UN Women around the world is the one in Afghanistan. And so we have been increasing our support with different strategies. We had last year a meeting of Afghan leaders to meet with other Middle Eastern leaders and negotiators and mediators, also to receive training, to share strategies, to understand better what can be done both from the outside and the inside. And we have coming up in June for the Human Rights Council session, the report on the Special Rapporteur, and UN Women is supporting the expert that's providing inputs to the Commission of Inquiry for that report. So I apologize that I didn't bring information, but I can send you the latest information because UN Women is working with civil society organizations and with different methodologies. Also, we just had an exhibition with IOM on the efforts by women here in the Palais, and it was an exhibition that makes us very proud because it was the colleagues who were taking the pictures, making sure that this topic is on the agenda, and rest assured that it's a very big priority for UN Women.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Just to add to that, because I'm sure all of you want to direct questions to the United Nations experts, but anyway, just to say for Afghanistan, we are very concerned, and among civil society organizations, we are regularly having meetings, like with the women who were in some kind of position of leadership there and have come out and organizing things. We have campaigns where we're sending money actually to some of the institutions that are still able to educate at least girls and young women. And yeah, I'm sorry, I was the one that mentioned Guatemala and all the other. Actually, I thought Afghanistan, but I couldn't say every country. But we are very, very concerned about Afghanistan, and especially this, concerning the education. This was such a. In fact, the day after it was announced that the Taliban had promising to say that they weren't going to change anything if you just let us rule, they actually all of a sudden announced no more higher education for women. The next day, we wrote a letter, actually I drafted it, to the Secretary General of the UN and asked him if we could help to find ways to, like through a digital internet, kind of to bring education to Afghani women, actually, which of course is dangerous. So in fact, in our optimism, we were thinking, what can we do? And I think that's the point. We have to keep trying to make those kind of changes, from the grassroots as well as from the UN. Yeah.
Thank you. We're a little bit over time, but I think still, I promised there would be a question. There was a question at the end of the room there. I'm not sure who was raising their hand, and they say, I'm not seeing there. Is there a question from the back? No? Okay.
Yeah, I think there was one.
Huh?
C'est ce qu'a dit cette dame qui m'a interpellée, parce que je trouve qu'aujourd'hui, les réseaux sociaux, qui peuvent être un outil merveilleux de communication, est aussi un outil terrible, qui peut véhiculer énormément de violence. Donc c'est un sujet sur lequel on pourrait, il va falloir s'attaquer dans l'avenir. Et je me rends compte que quand les gens utilisent, puis nos enfants, moi je suis d'une génération qui a été un peu dépassée par toutes ces nouvelles technologies, dans l'éducation des enfants, comment les protéger de ça. Et on se rend compte finalement sur ces réseaux sociaux qu'on a parlé beaucoup aujourd'hui d'inclusivité, ce qui est important, d'unité dans la diversité, que les réseaux sociaux séparent énormément les gens. C'est-à-dire avec leurs calculs, on regarde, je ne sais pas, si vous regardez votre Facebook, vous n'allez recevoir que les choses qui vous intéressent vous, personnellement, que les choses qui vous correspondent. Donc ça veut dire qu'on est chacun de plus en plus enfermé dans les seules choses qui nous intéressent personnellement, donc en tant qu'individu, et non pas une information qui nous ferait connaître le reste d'autres cultures, d'autres choses. Je ne sais pas si je me fais bien comprendre. Et je trouve que c'est un sujet crucial aujourd'hui aussi pour faire évoluer l'image des femmes dans la paix aussi.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, a question in the far back there. The far, yeah, Mr. In the far back. Yes, okay.
Thank you for this opportunity. Mohammed from Kurdistan, Iraq. Unfortunately, in this moment, we have many women arrested by government or victims by group of terrorism in the Iraq and Syria and Iran and Turkey. Just I want to ask the United Nations and UN Women, and also I'm shocked about the logo of the women rights is the revolution Jin Jian Azadi, leave woman freedom. And you don't mention never about this revolution happening in the Iran. To be honest, I was shocked about this. After Gina Amini killed by the regime Irani, and still every day executed by the Iran regime to the people just if supporting revolution Iran, revolution Gina Amini killed by the Iranian, and you don't mention about this. And I ask, what kind of provide supporting United Nations did for the revolution Xinjiang Azadi, woman life freedom, and thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question. And again, here are the key mechanisms. I know it's not perfect, but it's what we have right now. In the Human Rights Council, we have the commissions of inquiry that are documenting these cases, and UN Women is providing support for these investigations. The Commission on Iran presented the report recently. It can be downloaded online. There's also the Women, Peace and Humanitarian Fund that is a multi-donor trust fund that is providing immediate support for human rights defenders and for specific situations that require immediate assistance. So those are two of the mechanisms that we have. There are the statements by our executive director when all these situations starting to emerge, and there's a very close follow-up with also, again, civil society organizations. With the different mechanisms that the UN has, and unfortunately we don't have a presence in Iran, but we're supporting from our regional offices, and so that's what I can say right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, in the far back, your last question. I think we'll have the last question. Yes, sir, in the far back, the last row there. Yeah, please. With
Je croyais que c'était moi.
Alors, moi je suis Seroutine Soni, je viens de la République démocratique du Congo, mais j'habite en Suisse. Je suis également président de la fondation Soni basée à Kinshasa, qui vient en aide aux femmes en détresse et aux orphelins et orphelines. Ma préoccupation est celle-ci. Selon un rapport d'experts américains paru en 2011, près de 48 femmes sont violées chaque heure en République démocratique du Congo, ce qui avoisine plus de 1000 femmes violées par jour. Et ces femmes sont violées et sont abandonnées à leur propre sort. Il n'y a aucune justice pour elles. Et au jour d'aujourd'hui, nous continuons à être persuadés que le seul palliatif à cette faiblesse du gouvernement congolais, voire les compétences du gouvernement congolais, pour rendre justice à ces femmes-là, reste la création d'un tribunal pénal international. Ça fait belle lurette que les ONG et les indépendants ont fait des démarches et ont demandé à l'ONU et aux autres institutions internationales de mettre en place ces tribunaux pour justement permettre à ces femmes-là qui sont violées d'obtenir la justice. Et ma question est de savoir pourquoi, en fait, cette création de ce tribunal international pénal traîne-t-elle jusqu'à aujourd'hui? Parce que jusque-là, on n'a pas encore vu de procès pour justement essayer de réparer le cœur de ces femmes-là qui sont jusqu'à aujourd'hui blessées et traumatisées d'ailleurs. C'était ça ma préoccupation.
So just sharing with you that also that is a situation where there's a lot of attention, even if the reports are not coming out as publicly as we would like. We also work with the Mukewe Foundation. They have their headquarters here. And what we are trying to achieve is justice, but with reparation measures, and we continue to build a movement that will enable that to happen. Because what we know is unless the conditions of inequality, of discrimination are addressed, we will continue to see this issue. So fully aware of the situation also in Congo, and I know for every person that is sitting here, there is a situation that needs immediate assistance, support, and that's what we are here to do, developing also, for example, methodologies that allow the investigations to prosper, developing a movement that will continue to pursue accountability year after year. I wanted to share the case of Guatemala because it has taken 20 years. 20 years of struggle to build a movement, to train the investigators to be able to collect the evidence with special studies that were put in the court in the face of very strong opposition for indigenous women who are illiterate, who are monolingual. But this is to showcase that it can happen, but it requires a very strong commitment and follow-up. And the fact that the conflicts are increasing in this moment of time is not allowing us to continue to pursue justice for every case. Also, UN Women has supported the women in Cambodia to be able to have a truth commission, to be able for their voices to be heard. What I can share, for example, from the case of Guatemala is that for women, the most important part of all this is to have been heard and being believed by a judge. It has taken years to break the silence, to speak about what happened, to be able to heal at the community level in these processes. And so what this conversation is really reminding me of is how long these processes are and how we need to continue to pursue them. And so this is why 1325 has 9 associated resolutions looking at sexual violence in conflict because of the gravity of the situation. And so we will need more than an afternoon, some few days to really go in depth into all these cases and the efforts, but at least, and this was not happening 25 years ago when 1325 came out, sexual violence as a weapon of war is something that is being stated as one of the crimes against humanity that cannot be tolerated. There's a special rapporteur for sexual violence in conflict, and we need to continue. I wish we had more resources to pursue all these situations. And I know in the case of Cambodia, there was an attempt already 16 years ago to have a court, a tribunal. And we didn't gain enough support from donors to really actually implement a tribunal. We need to have reparations. We need to have a response. So they are complex processes, and I know there's so much work that we need to do. But just to share with you what we are working on. Thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you very much. I think, we don't have 2 days, but you opened our mind to a lot of new information, and I hope that we can make your reports available. And also, we've got a lot of information, a lot of details, and also I think people can access this through our UPF and also Women's Federation. I think, Caroline, maybe you want to say a few words as we close?
Nothing really substantive, just to say thank you, actually. Thank you. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, speakers from the earlier session. Thank you for those who came from far, from the UK and from Lyon and from the other parts of Switzerland, Zurich. Thank you so much. I think we all learned a lot and were stimulated, and I think there's something that we can all do concretely in our local places. And let's stay in touch about this. Let's not just file this away, no more war, no peace without women. Let's really work on this. I think we can make it something strong. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's give a round of applause to our panelists. No peace without women is not a slogan, it's a call to action. And thank you for making it real today. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good trip back, especially those who came from far away. Thank you for coming all this way. Thank you very much. God bless you.